Welcome, my friends, to the Sage of Quay Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking, and I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight, Ole Dammegård returns to the show. Ole is one of the preeminent researchers studying and exposing the dark business of assassination and false flags. Ole's work is completely self-funded, so if you could take a moment after the show and visit his website, lightonconspiracies.com, and consider donating or sponsoring his work, Ole would be greatly appreciative. For tonight's discussion, Ole shares his ongoing investigation into the November 13, 2015 Paris attacks and how the long list of anomalies, quirks, and clues point to another engineered event in a long line of false flags designed to manipulate the mass consciousness in order to further advance the one-world agenda of the puppet masters. And so without further ado, here's Ole Dammegård. So Ole, the last time we spoke about the Paris attacks, it was soon after the attacks, and you took us through why you believe that it was engineered and orchestrated, that it was not an organic type of attack. You and I traded some emails, and you mentioned to me that you have some new and additional information that we can bring to the audience that'll dig in deeper with regard to your understanding of what took place in Paris.
Yeah, the thing was that when we last spoke about this, it was just a few days after, and I felt that it was almost like it was a massive attack. I felt like it was the ultimate battle almost between the truth and what they were trying to force on top of us. So I really felt I need to do everything I can to expose as much as I can as soon as possible. So I think I did like 20 interviews in 4 days or something like that. And just to defuse this official story that was being pumped out there, because it was absolute lies. And this operation is on a level that I never encountered before. The PSYOP is just incredible in this one, with very, very satanic undertones. I would be very happy to just make a quick go through the official story and then start adding up with the additional things I found out over this month or two.
That would be great. Yeah.
It was on Friday the 13th that a series of attacks took place in Paris. It was Friday the 13th. I mean, the feeling of that whole day, the whole thing, it was very handpicked. 13th of November. And the whole thing started with first, there was a friendly game between Germany and France being played at the stadium, the National Stadium in Paris, where it said that there were two suicide bombers that tried to enter the stadium and then were turned away by security and blew themselves up outside the stadium. Then this was 9:20 in the evening, Friday evening here. 9:25 was another attack. There was a shooting at the two small restaurants, Le Carillon and Le Petit Cambodge. And then a few minutes later, there was another shooting in the Avenue de la République, where it said that in the first two restaurants, there were 14 deaths. In the second attack here, there was said to have been 5 deaths. Then some additional minutes later, there was a shooting at a bar called Le Belle Équipe, where it says that there were 19 deaths. Then there was an explosion at the Comptoir Voltaire with 1 death. And then at 9:49, some minutes later again, that was sort of the whole finale, the grand finale of this evening. There were 4 gunmen that entered into a music theater called Bataclan Music Theater, where it said that there was about between 1,000 and 1,500 people at a concert with the American band Eagles of Death Metal. And these 4 gunmen just went in there, shouted, it's officially stories, shouted Allah Akbar, had AK-47 and just fired into the crowd for some 10 to 15 minutes. And there it is said that there was about 80 people killed. And then the very last thing, there was a shooting where at Boulevard Boulangerie, where it said that there was 4 more deaths. But when you start looking to this whole thing, nothing makes sense. I mean, it's so important to, when you come to a crime scene, come with an open mind. Don't jump into conclusions. Just look at the evidence, see what happened, especially the first few hours of information coming out. and so on. So this is what I've done, and I'm not totally sure how much we talked about last time, but if I just go into things that I believe happened instead of getting into too much detail in some of the areas. But at the stadium, the French President François Hollande was there with his German colleague, top politician. I think it's the foreign minister of Germany. He was there at the same game. And here it is said that these two suicide bombers wanted to go in, but unfortunately, one of them had forgotten to buy a ticket, so he was turned away by security. So that made him really upset. So he decided to blow himself up. So he did that, boom. Then some 10 minutes later, his friend thought that, well, if I can't get in either, I'm going to blow myself up. So this is not Monty Python, this is the official story. So he blew himself up. Now there's no traces whatsoever of any explosion, no blood, there's a photo of a wall with 2 drops of blood. I'm telling you, if you blow up a person, it is a horrific scene. I mean, there would be all kinds of body parts, body fluids, blood, brain tissue, teeth, whatever, blown in a big area. Nothing. There's nothing. Instead, the only thing that shows that there was the so-called explosions was the sound. And I would very strongly suggest that this sound was being pumped out over the PA system, so that we only have an illusion of an attack. And what they did was that the game just continued, and the French Prime Minister or President was approached by his advisor or bodyguards, and it's identical to when George Bush was informed about 9/11. His advisor comes, whispers in his ear, says, "This is the worst terror attack ever on French soil," or American soil, depending on what episode we're talking about. And he just very calmly, no reaction, no fear. I mean, please remember, Charlie Hebdo happened this in January last year. This was in November. If I were François Hollande, I would freak out, or at least I would react. Here, nothing whatsoever. Very calmly, he's let out. No bodyguards are jumping on top of him, protecting him, covering him with their bodies. Nothing. Just, "Please, Mr. President, can you follow me?" So he's followed out. And there's photo taken of this incident. There's like a photographer with a camera right up his face, taking photos identical to the ones when George Bush were informed. And you can see his colleague, his German colleague, he's sitting smiling next to him. So with this in mind, please keep in mind that either we're looking at a horrible, horrible mass murder, an attack by absolute fanatic, crazy Muslim terrorists, or we are looking at state-sponsored terrorism, total inside jobs, there to freak you out so that you will accept whatever it is that they will present you as their solution. And this solution is every single time more and more militarized police, surveillance, martial law. You pay for unjust wars. You pay to get yourself more and more into a mental prison and a physical prison and so on. You pay. So this is why it's important, because after all, I mean, I've looked into these things for some 30 odd years, and I have found that I don't even know if there are such terrorists that every morning when they get up, Muslim terrorists, they have cereal breakfast or whatever, while speculating, how can I hurt people of the Western world? How can I blow them up? What kind of sinister plan can I come up with? The real terrorists that I found are people like the French Prime Minister or President in a global scale, the Western world, through networks like the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Committee of 300. These are the hidden networks. But I would like to present some things, and then it's up to the listeners to say, yes, that makes sense, or no, that does not make sense, and then go for the Muslim terrorist. But until then, I would be very happy if you could just hear me out. So, Right after this happened, there was this reaction, global reaction, and one of them was dear Obama, who was on the phone with President Hollande on the very same morning. And he went out and said, this is an attack not just on Paris, it is an attack not just on the people of France, but it's an attack on all humanity and the universal values we share. Those are pretty big words, and it sort of embraces all of us into this crowd being attacked, I would say, which could be the whole idea. So when these things happen, very often there's signs of pre-knowledge. Somebody knows, somebody aware, because these things take time to prepare, and also they are not very shy, these people. They're so full of themselves, so arrogant in their approach and so on. So things leak out. And there was one big meeting at the George Washington University, I think, where you had the heads of the CIA, MI6, Mossad, and the chief of the Council of Intelligence in France, the very four forces that we very often find in operations like this, especially when they include France. They had a meeting in front of a big audience crowd, very proudly, and the name of the lecture or the name of the panel debate was the joint mission for the 21st century. What does that mean? The joint mission. Here we are looking at CIA, MI6, Mossad. They are officially not working together that tightly, and France, and this is just a little more than a week before this happened. I would very much like to have heard what were they discussing behind closed doors.
Right.
There's a Twitter account that is very, very odd. There was a Twitter account called PZ Feed eBooks. Just a few days before this happened, there was a tweet going out saying death toll from Paris terror attack rises to at least 120 when 270 others injured. Now, that exact Twitter account was also active. This was 2 days before it happened. But this exact same Twitter account was also active before the Peshawar mass shooting, where it said the exact same numbers, the exact same things. It was a school shooting in Peshawar in Pakistan, where one of the victims from Sandy Hook, Noah Posner. Go figure. Really makes you believe in reincarnation, because he died more or less on the same day, 2 years apart, 2012 and 2014. Incredible.
Yep.
But this Twitter account did also send out more or less identical tweet with the same numbers involved when the Ebola hoax were on the move. So very odd Twitter account. It said that it's a so-called Twitter bot, I think it's called, that gathers these tweets and then pushes them out. I don't know how it works, but I think it's remarkable that this has been active in 3 of these PSYOP operations.
Yeah.
Also, there was a YouTube account. It was called Videos Paris Attack Exclusively, with the whole French flag colors behind it. And this was the day before it happened. Go figure. Then we had Wikipedia. I mean, Wikipedia, you have to believe that because you have to. Anyway, that was pretty amazing as well, because less than 2 hours after the attacks, they had the whole story. Everything was there, the number of wounded, all the different locations that had been hit, and also details from the French President Hollande's speech to the nation about how we must stand up against them and we must close the borders and so on. Only one slight little problem. This went live on Wikipedia 56 minutes before the French president even gave his speech.
Wow.
These things are prepared often years before, and they pump out these details right in your face to affect your subconscious, I think. One thing, there's a video game called Battlefield 3. In Battlefield 3, it is about a terror attack on Paris on Friday, November 13. Also, there was, right after this happened, buildings all over the world, or especially in the same cities that have also been hit by false flag attacks, like Sydney, like Ottawa, and so on. And these buildings were lit up in the colors of the French flag, and also the Wembley Stadium. There was only one slight little problem here, because the Wembley Stadium was lit up 1 hour before it actually happened. People on site saw, what was that? And then it was somebody turned it off again. I would say there's a 1 hour time difference between England and France. Is it possible that somebody screwed up big time and hit the switch 1 hour too early? If so, I'm sure he will have had his butt kicked seriously after that. Before these things happen, in the major newspapers, often they just put it right there in front of you. Like, for instance, before the Danish, the shootings in Copenhagen that I publicly predicted 1 month before it happened, on the date exactly, they had a big front page on one of the main newspapers where it just said 666, covering half of the front page in red numbers on a black background. Also, you have the all-seeing eye, you have the pyramid, all of that right in your face. Here in Paris, in Le Parisien, there was a big one about le terrorisme, marque le spirit, that terrorism will affect your spirit. Coincidence? I don't know. But it was right there. Also, one of the things that they say, people from the inside say, that the way the elite, as they call themselves, the power structure behind these things, the way they understand the law of karma is that if you put it out there right in front of people's faces and they do not react, then the karma is on their shoulder, not the attacker. It will liberate the attacker from that bad karma. I think that can very much explain why we see these things in films, in media, on TV, right in front of you. Like before the 7/7 bombings, they had big panorama. This is one of the biggest programs on the British BBC, a 1 hour long show about a possible future false flag. And it was exactly describing the 7/7 bombings come. I mean, they were sitting there, members of the parliament, members of media, members of everywhere, the MI6, MI5 were there. How are we going to coordinate this? Right in your face. And then the very last comment, the TV host says, just know you've been warned. I mean, if that doesn't give you chill, then... Anyway, we had François Hollande, the French president, that was very, very central in Charlie Hebdo, which is also a super false flag, I'm telling you. He was led up, and of course, since he was let out, and since this was France being under a massive terror attack here, he was freaking out, and of course, in total contact with the government and the military and so on. No, he was led up to, like, there's a glass in, like, it's almost, I think it's up where the security and the speakers for TV and radio are situated, with a panoramic view all over the stadium. Only one problem is that the whole stadium can also see you. So from a security point of view, not very clever place to be. And when these operations happen, one of the things that when you sure sign of a false flag is that the mobile network and phone network are shut down while these operations are ongoing. Then once the official story is out there the way they want it, boom, then they let it go again. And here, people in the stadium, there was about 80,000 people, reported that the mobiles didn't work. They couldn't call. But we have photos of François Hollande standing there in front of this whole massive stadium, speaking on his mobile with someone. And this is at 21:36. That's like 17 minutes after the first bomb went off. And this is while many of these shootings in the cafes have already taken place, and he's very calmly there, standing, talking. So who is he talking to? I would very much suggest the people behind this operation.
Yeah.
Because this man is one of the players. He's absolutely not one of the main players. He's a front figure, nice looking, but he is in it, I'm telling you. When they carry out these operations, very often it is on a Friday afternoon. Friday midday, Friday afternoon, Friday evening. And the reason for that, in my humble opinion, is because then they can close the stock market. And then they have Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and then when they open again Monday, they will have had plenty of time to erase all traces of insider trading and so on, because these things are massive profit makers. When JFK was killed, it was one of the all-time highs on the American stock market. When Olof Palme, the Swedish Prime Minister, was taken out, the absolute same thing. 9/11, billions were made.
Right.
And I have not looked into the French one or other stock markets about Friday the 13th, but I can promise you, you will see that. Normally they need 3 days, and this was exactly what François Hollande said in his speech to the nation. Because of the respect for the families of the dead, we will close everything up so we can so we can be in sorrow for 3 days, exactly following the template. When these things happen, I often look very closely at who are the main characters, because either we're looking at a terror operation, then you need to find out who are the people leading the operation. So then you look for military educated people that are good leaders and used to combat and so. Or if it's a false flag, then you're looking for, or I am looking for, actors, very often poor actors, background extras, like military advisors. I will look for, are there any signs of marketing agencies, propaganda type of things, hidden messages, logos, colors, jingles almost. These are the things to look out for if it is a false flag. Also, when there is a false flag, one of the main ingredients that is always there is a drill. The drill is there to be able to get vehicles in position, to get explosives in there, patsies in there, so they can be blamed and killed and silenced. Directors, all of these things. You also need logistics with coffee, showers, bathroom, toilets, because they take time to carry these things out. You need to close off streets and so on. And so was there a drill this day? The answer is absolutely yes. There was a massive multi-site drill in Paris the night before and the morning. So the whole center of Paris was filled with ambulances and people in uniform, all of these things. And the guy that went out in media and said about these things, his name is Patrick Pelot. He was on a radio station talking about this multi thing. So as soon as I heard about the exercise, I was just like, whoa, hang on. So also, that was the drill, check. So I looked at this Patrick Pelot and I said, hey, I know you. Because this guy was one of the witnesses outside the Charlie Hebdo office when there was a fire attack in 2011. Then in 2015, he is a medical emergency expert, it says, a doctor. But he was also working for Charlie Hebdo, writing for them or something like that. But he was there. And this day, when Charlie Hebdo happened in January 2015, he was in a meeting with first responders, that means ambulance, fire brigade, the exact same people we see that then approaches the crime scene. He was very close by the Charlie Hebdo office when the shooting happened. He then says that somebody in the Charlie Hebdo office called him and said, please come and help us, we're being shot at. He ran over, gave them first aid, tried to help them, and then picked up his mobile and called President Hollande, as you do.
Yeah.
As you do. And then he's on TV, sitting crying, oh, it was so sad, it was so horrible, there was blood everywhere. and so on. So I checked him up, and because he acted like an actor, but his crime was quite impressive compared to other crisis actors that are just incredibly bad. For sure, he is an actor as well. He was in a film from 2009 called Incognito. You can see it on YouTube, or I think it's on Netflix as well. And also Bad Girl from 2012. So this is a guy he knows how to act as well. And he's very good friend with President Hollande. There's photos of them hugging and standing next to each other, shoulder, arm on shoulder and this sort of thing. So you look at Paris also in connection with these drills. There were at least two hospitals that were evacuated, meaning patients, doctors, everybody out. And instead were participants in this drill. I think it is said, I don't know if it's true, but it's said that this drill involved around 1,000 people. I'm not saying that these people knew what they were part of. I'm saying it involved, because these operations are always totally compartmentalized.
Right.
People only know their little part, and they think that they're doing the right thing, that they're doing good, that they're, So here we have two hospitals that were evacuated, filled with people that looked like doctors, that looked and so on. And also, I would suggest, were there to receive the so-called wounded and dead from these terror scenes. Let's have a look just at around these different restaurants and see if there's anything odd there. And yes, there is. For instance, that there are two of these, they're very close together. That's one of the things. All of these attacks are in a very small area. And it is also the exact same area where Charlie Hebdo used to have their office. Only one problem. Charlie Hebdo had 3 different addresses for the same office. And the day when the Charlie Hebdo happened, the people working in the office were very busy changing the address on different social media and so on. And one of the addresses they had was, what do you call it, door-to-door with the police headquarters. Go figure. There's some of these restaurants, I've looked very much into them, and it seems like they were not in in working order when these things happen. It looks like they were available for someone to take over them and prepare these facilities for this attack. Especially there's one restaurant called Le Carillon, and when you look at it, when you check photos from the crime scene, there's a chalkboard outside the entrance door where, it says Wi-Fi and it says the different things on the menu and stuff like that. When you compare that image and you go to Google Map, you go down Google Map, you zoom in on the same door, it's the exact same thing on the chalkboard on Google Map as on the from the crime scene. But the Google Map image is from May 2015 and the attack was November 2015. Slight problem here. I mean, the way they do these psyops, especially this one, is incredible. So I'm just pointing things out. I'm not saying for sure that it is on purpose, but what can I say? There's Café Bon Bière, and on the, the curtains that are hanging out over the entrance, I don't know what these things are called, you just push them out. Anyway, on them, they're printed, service continues 7/7. I mean, very often you have these things to subconsciously get you in 9/11, 7/7. These there's so much into numbers, like that's why I always check the date, the street address. For instance, do you know the street address where the Boston bombing blew up? The Boston bomb blew up?
No, what was the address?
Boylan Street. Guess the number.
666 or 1313?
My God, do you have a crystal ball? 6 it is.
I didn't know. Just a guess.
And here, these things are printed on these curtain things on site. You know,
Yeah.
very beautiful. Service continues, and then it's the date 7, whatever you side slash or whatever it's called, 7, right there.
Yeah, psychological stuff. Yep.
They love that. Also, you look at the things like the blood, for instance. In Boston, we had this orgy in blood. It was spilled everywhere, and it had this very, very strong red blood color of blood, which is not the real color of blood because blood goes very dark very quickly.
Right.
Here, like an hour later, still very red and so on, and dry, starts cracking up and so on. Here you look at photos of blood, and there's hardly any photos. And the photos, please, when you look at it, check it out. It's taken in daylight, meaning that is at least 12 hours later, 10, 12 hours later. And here they have the blood is still very red, and it's still not dry. And it looks like somebody has taken like a ketchup bottle or spray bottle and just 2, 3 lines. Very dramatic. Not blood. Then you have these photos, these images of the people walking around wounded and so on. And there's especially one, the only one I found where there's actual blood on anyone is a guy. He's on his cell phone. He's got one of these heating silver metallic blankets on him, and he's got a T-shirt that is sprayed with blood. It looks like somebody has slashed him with a knife. Only problem, there's no damage to the T-shirt. So the question is, how would blood like that appear on a T-shirt? If he carried someone, it wouldn't look like that. If it doesn't really match up. And also, his T-shirt is inside out, back to front. There's footage. Now we're into the psyop, and where they start putting it right in your face. A thing like that, I don't think it's done. I think it's made on purpose. This inside out, this whole thing for you to react. And if you don't, you can blame yourself. You look at the SWAT teams, for instance. I've checked, thousands of photos, or at least the official photos, because if you think of it, there aren't that many. Most of these photos from this evening are taken by professional photographers and so on. Where are all the footage from normal people? And here, some of the SWAT team, they look very professional, and then you start checking out the weapons. Some of them very, very, automatic guns and so on. And some of them walking around with BB guns. What is that? And also, there's especially one photo with one guy. He's standing holding a rifle, air rifle, I think it's or a 22 or something like that, holding it with the barrel pointed slightly upwards. If you're a soldier with a military education, they would just get all over you if you did. It's so dangerous for people around you. Something happens, you shoot the head of someone close to you. Anyway, it's right there in front of us. Nobody reacts. There's another one with two. They're in the SWAT team, blue uniform, and you see there's the officer is right behind one of his people in the same team. They look very professional. Only problem is that his holster for his pistol is on the right side, but he's holding the gun with his left hand. And then he's pointing it right at the neck of the guy in front of him. And the guy in front of him has his pistol right up in his face, meaning that should he fire, I don't know about you, if you try, you would lose your front teeth. That is not a way somebody would act if they were real police officers.
Right.
Also, I have footage of one of the SWAT team members. She's a middle-aged woman, slightly overweight, in her 50s. And there's some of the fire soldiers that are they're girls in 20, 22 years old. Maybe that is possible. I don't know. But it's not normal. I can say that for sure. Then also, these people are said to have been shot with AK-47s, Kalashnikovs. This is a weapon. I have military people that have informed me that this weapon makes holes like a tennis ball, the size of a tennis ball. It is a very, very brutal weapon. Here, no blood at all. There's nothing in the street, nothing hardly anywhere. And one of the bodies is put like, it's like, you know, lit de parade, when the president of a country dies and they put him up there and the whole population can come and say bye-bye, lit from above, and there's all these flowers around them. Here is one of these bodies with a blanket on top of it. It is identical to the way it's positioned as had it been a president. I'm talking about how to get the emotions going. And the light, there's perfect lighting straight from above where there's no street light, you know, and there's no blood on the blanket. There's no arms stretched out, legs stretched out. It's just a perfect lit de bar. Then you have quite a few of the photos. When you look at them from the crime scene, somebody has been in there and screwed them up with Photoshop very, very clumsily. I would say very much done on purpose. Many of these photos are composites put together to, I would say, to just put it in your face, and if we don't react, it takes the karma away from it. It's never been as obvious as in this operation. Really, really bad. And please have a look yourself, because you will see that the body proportions, the people compared to, when you compare them to vehicles, the length of their arms, stuff like, does not match up. And you will see that the lighting as well, the sharpness of the photo, these are composites, and for no reason.
Well, maybe it's sloppy, Ole, because they know that the vast majority of the people are just not going to take the time or have the wherewithal to look at the details.
No, but Mike, we're talking about a totally different level. That is the normal way when they are trying to fix up a picture to show you something. But these images are just totally neutral images. There's no need to do anything with them.
Okay.
It would even be so much easier just to take a normal photo of people with a police car in the background, 8 police officers, people, on the pavement. No need. But here, somebody has really worked hard on putting it into layers, changing it around for no reason. And there's so many of them. Really study them and you will see. Then, unfortunately, none of the CCTVs, as far as I know, in Paris was working this evening. What a bummer, especially since they spent like billions and billions investing in these things after Charlie Hebdo, and with the help of Israeli companies that are specialized in these things. Very central in the 7/7 bombings in London, and here we go again. Very sorry, nothing worked. But there are 2 CCTVs inside one of these restaurants where all of these people are, I think there were 19 deaths reported here. And so we look at those. You can find them on YouTube. And once you start comparing with Google Map, you go down street level to check out the different light sources and so on. You will see that there's especially one outside the window of this restaurant. There's a very strong light pointing towards inside the restaurant where there's no light. I would very much suggest a spotlight. This is a film set, a spotlight. And then if you check there's 4 windows and 1 door, 3, and if you look out through the windows, there's a slightly blurred feeling, and then the door itself is totally clear. Where the glass is supposed to be, it's totally clear. Then you see the shooter that officially is dressed in black comes, he's dressed in light clothes, and he walks around shooting at people, hitting no one. When he starts shooting, check out, there's one woman near the door on the outside. She turns around and she runs in. If you go frame by frame by frame, just when she's about to open the door, she throws in a little smoke grenade with her left hand, then through the open window, because there's no glass in the door, then comes in, that explodes right in front of the face of one of the other ones, adding effect to the whole thing, and then she runs in. Also, when the shooting starts on both, in front of both these CCTV cameras that are just a few yards between them, there's I don't know what it is. It's something that is flying around in the air. I think they're trying to make it look. It's like it's debris from the walls that are being shot at or something like that. But when you check from one camera and you see the location of the other one, there's no thing flying in front of that camera. Same thing when you check the other camera. So this is added afterwards. If you remember Charlie Hebdo, when they said to have killed this police officer with an AK-47, shot him in the head, there was no impact to the head whatsoever, and it looked like a ricochet from the pavement. But it was not. It was when you go frame by frame by frame, you will see that he's got a small little smoke bomb in his left hand that he detonates. That is where the smoke comes from, goes upward and in a right angle. And it's an identical smoke bomb she's using here. So there's another one. I love this one. I love it. There's a very dramatic sequence you can find that is filmed by somebody real, because it's filmed with a mobile camera. It's shaking, and so it must be real.
Right.
I beg to differ. And you can see that somebody's giving CPR to a victim on the inside of this building floor. And it's all very dramatic, and they loop it like this. The only thing that I noticed was the sound when they were giving CPR, because it's like waka, 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 like this. And I don't know about you, but if you press your chest, it doesn't sound like that. But it does, though, if you use a CPR doll. Because I've done one of these, save a life courses and stuff.
Me too.
So I recognize the sound, and I put together, like a mix where you compare the sound of one of them with like waka 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 on a doll, and then waka 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 on this one. I love it. So I would say, do not really believe that. Plus, when you have been shot with an AK-47, what good would CPR do? I mean, that would often just make it a lot worse. But that's just me. I'm an amateur, so I don't know about medics and medical things. But then again, it was like the Woolwich beheading. When they chopped the head of this English soldier, they said they brought. I have this. You can find it on YouTube as well, where the chief of police says that the victim was brought into the hospital and later pronounced dead. He did not have a head. It's like, and later pronounced dead. I love it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It really is.
But then also in the Copenhagen shooting, they have had white buses driving around in the center of the city when it was happening, with the painted text, big, beautifully painted, evacuate. And Benjamin Netanyahu went out while this whole operation was going on, saying, we need to evacuate all Jews from Copenhagen. We need to evacuate them all. Also, here in Paris, when this one happened, you will see footage in the background of some of the news footage, and there's police, stopping the traffic and so on. But they're letting 4 buses in a row go through, and they then park inside. So these buses will have some kind of part in the operation, I would suggest. And on the back of them, there's a film poster where it says with big letters, occupied. They're playing with our minds. They're playing with our minds.
Absolutely.
When the 7/7 bombings through, on the bus itself that blew up, it said pure terror, true delight.
Right.
Something like that.
On the side of the bus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pure terror, purely brilliant. So I can't really remember. And on the other side, there was a poster on the bus itself that blew up, a poster with a Coca-Cola bottle and an explosion behind it.
Yeah.
Product placement. Then also when I look at these things, especially if it's an area with very narrow, small streets where these operations are carried out, they need some kind of operations center, headquarters for the operations, where they can have the vehicles, the technical stuff, but without anyone being able to look in there. And when you look at the position at the Le Petit Cambodge and Le Carillon, these two restaurants, right on the other side, there's of the street, there's like an industrial area with high walls and an opening where plenty of space for trucks and whatever is mean. I would very much suggest that could be a possible place for this exact thing. It's only like 50 meters from where these things happen. So the whole thing could be set up from there. You carry it out, boom, and you go back. Everything, nobody knows is what happened. And these two restaurants, all the photos that I've been able to find of that area of Paris, the month upcoming to this event, they show that these restaurants are not open.
Is that right?
There are people in Paris saying that they were working, that everything was fine, but I can't find any images, and on the contrary,
okay,
they look closed down. And you had Le Carillon with this white chalkboard thing. I mean, go figure. That does not sound to me like this is an open restaurant.
Yeah, that's very strange. The same sign for 6 months.
The same menu 6 months later. I mean, really. Then, when you look at these images, I mean, you have these images of people being, wounded. They're running around, having a towel around their head or something like that. Not really showing anything, but it looks very dramatic. When you click on them, especially if you're a nerd like me when it comes to these things, you will see the URL that shows you the search way to the server where it is. It can say blah, 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 / blah, 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 / and then the name of the image. And there's some of these images, for instance, at the when it said that they blew up the government building in Oslo, on one of the side of the government building, there were real victims, in my opinion. On the other side of the building, there were crisis actors there with blood everywhere to make sure that they had the real impact in media that was supposed to be spread around the globe. And in Norway, it was like there was some images from the national TV, and it said tv2.no / on one of the victims, it said in Norwegian, it says / victims and then / the name of the images. But then on the other side, tv2.no / actors / and then the name of the images. Here we have, especially from the CNN images, it's like cdn.turner.com / CNN next / DAM / assets / and then the name of the images. Assets.
Yeah.
That is what the CIA, how they name people they're using. People in these operations are called assets.
There's a lot of dots you're connecting there, Ole. I mean, we could talk about, this being coincidence, but there's a lot of stuff there that
I haven't really started yet. So are you up for a bit of a marathon?
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
Are you sure?
I am.
Okay, so let's go to the Bataclan Music Theater. This is quite a spectacular building, very odd architecture. People have pointed out that it looks very Freemasonic because the pillars in front, there's an old seeing eye on top, and it's bright red and yellow and white. Very, very odd. Also regarding the Freemasonic things, if you go down the alley where some of the shooting is said to have taken, or some of the drama is said to have taken place, and you go in the back entrance into the Bataclan, it's number 13, and on the gate there's some painted pyramid shapes. Coincidence? I don't know. I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah.
Okay, but Bataclan was owned by the same Jewish owners for some 40 years, and then 2 months before this happened, it was bought by a big entertainment group called Le Garderie. And it was sold on 9/11, the 11th of September. There's a lot of things happening on 9/11 this year before this event took place. And then I was on another program where there was some man called Scott Bennett. He's a former U.S. Army Special Operation officer from the 11th Psychological Operation Battalion. He's a civil affairs psychological operation commander and a global psychological warfare and counterterrorism analyst. My God, that was a mouthful. Before he became a whistleblower, he then spent a few years in prison because he was standing up for the truth and so on. But his task was to find funding for terrorism. In this company that is called Lagardère, that bought Bataclan 2 months before, that same company, which is a big group they specialize especially in big events and so on, they were, as far as I have been able to find out, in charge of the stadium where the explosion is said to have taken place. They're also indirectly owners of the management company for the rock group that was playing inside the Bataclan, and they bought Bataclan 2 months before. And I would very much like to look into who was owning these restaurants that looked like they were closed for maybe the same time period, these 2 months before this whole thing happened. But one of the shareholders in this Lagardère is a company called Qatar Holding, and that has been pointing out to me before by inside sources saying that they are sometimes funding these type of operations. I asked Scott Bennett about this, and he said, I can't answer you directly, but you're spot on. So let's have a look at this Eagles of Death Metal. I don't know. Have you heard about them before this happened?
Absolutely not.
No.
Nope.
This is a group that was totally unknown, and now they're named all over the world. They're being worshipped. They're being, their careers have just gone, whoa. We're getting into some satanic areas soon, and here again, the lead singer, his name is Jesse Hughes. He's called the Devil, and there's a lot of these photos where he's doing devil signs. He's doing the 666. He's one eye holding for one eye, and so on. And they were playing this night, it's said, for a crowd from some between 1,000 and 1,500 people inside here. And then these 4 gunmen comes in and starts shooting into it. But when you listen, there's some film footage of when the shooting starts. There's only one person in the crowd that is using his mobile to film this out of 1,500 people. One person. You see the band is playing da 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 da. The song they're playing, I'm kissing the tongue of the devil. I'm kissing the tongue of the devil. I mean, oh, gross. Anyway, they're playing this song, and then you hear bum 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 bum. Okay, I can compare that with the shooting pattern of Kalashnikov. Also, when you look digitally at the sound from a Kalashnikov, and normal fireworks, and the sound normal fireworks, not an AK-47. Then also the person who's filming it. He's steady like a rock. The camera is not moving, even though somebody's starting to fire behind him. They're not aiming the camera towards where the shots are coming from, and the people in front in the crowd are not moving either. You can see the silhouettes.
Right.
So either they're super cool or on heavy drugs, or this is a staged thing. Anyway, you have all of these cry stories, the Eagles of Death Metal, the interviews where they're sitting holding hands more or less and telling about this horrible event. If it happened, I'm not here, I don't want to be disrespectful, but when you look at the evidence, it's like, come on guys, this is absolutely not true. They're sort of running around helping people and so on. Anyway, outside when all of this shooting was happening, for one thing, 4 shooters, people keep referring the whole event of these different attacks in Paris. All the people interviews keep saying Kalashnikovs. They don't say automatic weapons or rifles. It's Kalashnikov, Kalashnikov, Kalashnikov. So either people are specialists in weapons, or the people that are being interviewed are part of this operation. And part of the psyop is to say keywords like they scream Allah Akbar, Muslim, terrorism, bomb, these things that well, you as a hypnotist.
Right, trigger words.
know trigger words, and Kalashnikov will immediately make you think of ISIS or a Muslim terrorist. That's the thing. So here, 4 people are shooting more or less non-stop for 10 to 15 minutes into the crowd of 1,500 people. And the official story is that 80 people died. So either we're looking at some incredibly bad shots here that could not even hit a barn if they were standing in front of it, or there's something strange here again, because there should have been maybe 800 dead after firing for 10 to 15 minutes non-stop. So outside the thing, when all of this happened, there's an alley that had been filmed. There's a guy hanging out of the windows. He's filming. There's people running out into the alley. And one woman is hanging out a window for her dear life, and he's shouting down, "What's going on? What's going on?" And I don't know, there are people down in the alley, they're dragging away with bodies and so on. Very dramatic. And he keeps filming for like almost 2 minutes, I think, in total.
Yeah.
And this woman that is hanging out of the window, please, you can find it on YouTube, look at where she is. How did she get down into that position? And also, she's hanging on to what looks like her fingertips. And at one point, she lets go of her left arm and sort of almost swings out into the street and then gets back in it. I tell you, not possible. This is not possible. She is there by some kind of wire or something like that. You will also see that it looks like next to her, up in the next window, there's what looks to be like a man in that window, but it's actually 2 people. You will see that if you look really close, there's a man and a woman. The woman is in between the man and the woman hanging, but they're standing very close, so they melt together sort of. But if you follow it frame by frame, you will see that this woman takes a step and gets in through the open window above the woman that is hanging there, and then she gives her a hand and just pulls her up. I mean, she just pulls her up.
Yeah.
The man that films it, he moves away his camera, but you can see like, whoa, she just moves up like that. I don't know about you, but it takes quite a lot of strength to just pull a body up like that.
Absolutely.
Especially by another woman. But then in media and French media, the whole thing was like, this was a pregnant woman, and there was a hero man, a mystery stranger had saved her. So they started this whole campaign about finding this man who had saved her. The only problem is, you look at the footage, it's a woman, but nope, sorry, it's a man, and they managed to find him. So there were these articles where they were brought together. You never saw his face, you only got his first name, and it was fantastic.
Ole, I had read, and maybe, hope I'm not missing this here, misrepresenting it, but I had heard the guy that was actually doing the filming in that alley with the girl hanging, that he worked for a media outlet, that he worked for a newspaper. Did you run into that?
Yeah. I was getting there. He's working for Le Monde, which is one of the biggest one in France. And he was shot in the hand. Just a slight little problem here. He is on the other side of this alley indoors, and he was being shot and hit in the hand. Also, while this whole thing keeps continue, you don't hear any gunfire. There's no gunfire. I mean, we're talking about in the next building, there's 4 people shooting away and then blowing themselves up. 1, 2, or 3 people are blowing themselves up in there, depending on what story you want to hear. According to the SWAT team leader that was interviewed by, I think it was NBC, he was interviewed, with a balaclava and this whole thing. When they entered into the building, it was totally quiet. And there was 800 people on the floor. Yeah. 800 people? No, 8,000. 8,000. And the interviewer said, 8,000? No, you mean 800? Yes, 800. I mean, this guy, not real either. And the stories, what went on in that building, it just totally conflicts each other and so on. There's also footage. The only footage you will see from the front to the side and the front of this building is that there are people wounded and some people are running around trying to help them. And somebody is filming them. But with there's this mechanical, very weird noise, where it's like she's filming, or whoever it is filming, and then it's like and filming again, filming again, and it's cut, it's sliced, and it said that that sound was from the mechanic lens to focus. But when you see the footage, it's the focus doesn't change at all. What is that? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Also, this man that was shot in the hand, I do not believe, because more or less all of the people interviewed or around this whole thing is somehow employed by media, newspaper, radio, TV, these different event things, and so on. The description of the shooters, they came in dark cars, BMWs, Mercedes, and so on, as far as I've been able to find out. And it said that they just jumped out of the car and started shooting. The description was muscular white guys, military-looking, dark clothes, military-looking clothes. My suggestion would be, why do they always change? Why is this always the description, more or less, of so-called terrorists? I would suggest this because you go in, you shoot, then the SWAT team and police arrive in the exact same clothes, but with balaclavas and so on. The shooters who are now hiding behind something or inside a car or whatever they are, just put on a balaclava, jumps out and joins that team. Meaning if you've got a SWAT team of 12 people, 3 shooters, a SWAT team of 12 people enters, a SWAT team of 15 people exits. Who notices it? Who will notice it?
The same description only was given by 2 witnesses in San Bernardino. 2 witnesses.
I was just going to say it. We've been talking about before, same people, theater group on tour, global tour.
Yeah.
And you know this, the one of the women that was in Sandy Hook, that was at the Boston bombing, where she else? She's also popped up other places. Now she was at the Oregon shooting. It's like, oh, what can I say?
The pay must be good.
They say that the actors, because money is not a problem in these areas, that the real actors get $666,000. And then they are told to leave for 6 years if they have some kind of an important role. So they need to stay away for 6 years. Like the man that was shot, the policeman that was shot in Paris, he was not a Muslim. He was a Mossad agent. He's in Buenos Aires now, as far as I know, doing great. And he was paid $666,000 and told to stay away for 6 years. So he will pop up again here like in 5 odd years or something like that.
Now, these are your sources that pull these numbers together? The $666,000 in the 6 years? How did you find that out?
It's from inside sources.
Okay.
I rely on that. I don't know. I was not there when they were paid, but that source says that is standard fee. And I mean, they love these numbers.
Well, and you have to figure the pay has to be good. I was half joking before, because otherwise, what normal person would do these things or participate in these events and not feel any guilt or remorse or anything else for what transpires afterwards? Yeah.
The thing is, you've got what is called duping delight.
Yep.
Many of these people, when they're interviewed, you will see that they're smiling while talking about horrific things, like my father got my head chopped off or something like that, and they're just sitting smiling. Here we have the same thing again, where there was 2 English women that was at the Bataclan. One got shot in the butt, and it was horrific. She's sitting there, Emma Watson, I think her name is. She's sitting there, absolute smiling, beaming.
I saw that interview. Yep.
The Chip Tatum, the CIA whistleblower, he told me that it's very easy. You know, the pay is good. You keep as small a group as possible. That's why they keep popping up again and again. And if people starts getting second thoughts, you just threaten them or beat one of them up or kill one of them in front of the others, and that would shut you up.
Yeah.
Or a child or your grandmother. You know, there are many different ways of getting to people.
And the Duper's Delight, that was in also the interview with the band Eagles of Death Metal when they got them all together on the couch. I remember the guitar player in particular. He would have this smirk on his face.
Yeah.
after maybe answering a question, or one of his buddies, Jesse the Devil Hughes, would say something, this other guy would be sitting next to him and he would have this smirk on his face. It was very bizarre.
When you look at these things, turn down the volume. Don't get misled by the words. See the body language. It's very, very interesting.
Yep.
Then inside the Bataclan, there's some footage, the only footage where you really see bodies, I would say. And it is very bizarre because there are some, I think it's 25 bodies in total, if I remember right. I mean, the rest of the 80 bodies, I have no idea where they've gone. But it looks like it's not even the original floor, because it's a beautiful floor in that Bataclan. You can go in and see images from Bataclan, absolutely stunning place. But here, it looks like somebody had put out like wallpaper or something, or cheap cloth to not mess it up, and then place these bodies, and around them, in a what I see as a heart shape, there's painted, like I said, with blood, like almost 1 meter wide, in blood around these, a heart. Absolutely bizarre.
I saw that. Yeah.
And then when you look closer at this photo, which is the only photo that has been released, and also this photo is not a photo where you can check the photo data. Normally you can see, it was taken by this camera at that date, and so on and so on. Here, it's a screenshot from a computer, so you cannot find any info from it. And when you look at the bodies, there's especially one woman. If you look down to the right, in the right-hand corner, there's a group of people lying down there. Look at her legs. They're spread in a way that a human body cannot do. And this is typical for what is called Kappa cadavers. These bodies that are used in exercises, fire brigades, Hollywood productions, all of these things, also for Halloween parties and so on. The way that body, and there's another body as well, the position they lie in are not natural. So I think what we look at here, it's not real bodies there. These are position cadavers, not real bodies. But also that very, very odd blood painting that is pulled around them. It's said that this occurred when bodies were dragged around. But what kind of body would make that amount of blood? It's like 1 meter wide, and we're talking like maybe 20 meters in total. It looks like one of these, what do you call these machines from an ice hockey game. It looks like one of these, but they put red paint underneath, and it's been driving around on the floor. Because also you will see that some of the body parts are on top of it, so the body has been placed after this. And I found the exact same blood trace, if you want to call it blood, at an claimed attack in Jerusalem on November 18th, the year before, 2004. It's exactly same, whatever they used it there as well. And there it is said that 2 Palestinian people have entered a Jewish church where they were worshipping and killed 4 people. I would very much like to look into that one as well, because November 18 is also the day of the witch, if I remember right, and the devil worship, some kind. It's a very specific date. So also if you look at instead of look to the left, the bottom part, and to the left of this image, I've enlarged that a lot, and as far as I can see, it's some kind of a death mask, a golden death mask that is positioned there. Very bizarre. And then if you zoom out and you look up where the chairs are up around the whole thing, you will see that it appears that there are 5 or 6 images of people standing there dressed in black with something white spot in front of them. And when I compare that, if you put like photos from satanic rituals where, I mean, the type of things you see on films, but actually exist as well. It is almost identical, the way that this whole thing is. So it makes the whole thing really, really bizarre.
Their occult symbolism, Ole, is all over the place. It permeates everything that they do.
All over the place, especially this one. I mean, incredible. And then there are photos that were spread when this happened, and it said that these were taken just minutes before the shooting started. It is of the crowd in the area, but you look at that one, to start with, it looks perfectly normal. Then when you start really looking at it, it looks like a Sgt. Pepper, Lonely Heart Club Band composite like that of hundreds of faces, where some of them are in focus, some of them are very out of focus, some are very sharp. The lighting is totally different. You see the same person in different angles, like 3-4 different places in the crowd. Some are really blurred, it's a total composite, and also lots of these devil signs, the horn, horn sign, it's all over the place. But these arms, some of them are like 6 feet high, of these arms, and it's just really bizarre when you look at it. And once again, why? And another photo that is taken also at the same time, you have this lady with red horns on, and there are other devil signs and so on.
Yeah, that's all their symbolism. They're putting all that symbolism out there. In my view, a lot of the reasons why they do that, because they communicate in symbols. That's what they do, and they communicate with dates. That's how they communicate with each other. I mean, that's just how it works. So that's why we're seeing all that stuff. We can only have conjecture as to what it all means, but those that are on the inner circle, they know exactly what it means.
And like if you save this image, especially the one of better quality, it says the name of the image is copyright Eagles of Death Metal, will be charged $550 if used, or something like that. These are not real photos. Somebody has spent many hours doing this, not very well, but done that. So, are you getting bored?
No, not at all. It's very interesting. Keep going.
Okay. Also, a week before this happened, a week, 10 days, there were 2 videos released of from the Bataclan itself, and the artist that was part of recording his name is Panteros666. And he is, it says in the description of him, is that he is a combination of ancient Aztec rituals, trancy synths, and crazy electro-tribal beats. But ancient Aztec rituals, that is blood sacrifice. Okay, so one of these videos have disappeared after I found it, and I don't know, but it's gone. But I have it. And it's a young woman. She's walking around in the forest in a white dress. And then she bumps into a dance group of, it could look like zombies, but also like killed victims from this shooting. They're in white T-shirts with blood all over, and they're dancing together. And it's this, I think it's a Rihanna song where the chorus is something like shoot, 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 blood, blood, blood.
Yeah.
And they're doing all the shoot, just everybody is like they're aiming at each other and shooting each other and stuff like that. And then in the end, this whole group embraces this girl in the white dress and are on top of her. And when they let go of her again, she stands up. There's some blood on her dress, and she's wearing the mask of Hannibal Lecter. So that's one of these videos. The other one is a Halloween video, Bataclan Halloween video, where there's a guy running around in the exact same alleys that were later filmed around the Bataclan, and he looks very haunted and chased. He's running around looking, who's following me, and then he enters into the Bataclan exactly the same way as the shooters have said to be. He comes in, he looks around in awe, And then he walks up on stage where there's a perfect photo of Nike, his Nike shoes, almost like a still, several times of these. And then he comes up and suddenly he looks around and boom, there's this big rave party going on and all of these things. But in the whole sequence, there's, I think it's 20 or 25 images where you can, no, sorry, 10 images where they're just showing for like a fraction of a second. It's just like you see there's an image, you see there's an image like this. So I managed to save all of these images, and they are like composites of a person's face who looks depressed and, you know, painted like that, but the same face with this Hannibal Lecter mask, very, very distorted, awful, you know, with big teeth and really awful. All of these images, 10 of them are there. But then if you look at one of them specifically, there was one of the victims in this whole thing. His name was Nick Alexander. He was working for the band. He was selling T-shirts and stuff like that. He was one of the people killed. And you see his red-haired girlfriend screaming out her sorrow. She was in New York or Washington as well, being filmed there, and it was just awful, you know. And then there's some photos of her and Nick Alexander, her boyfriend. You compare her face with the image of one of these 10 photos. I would say it is the exact same girl, but with a Hannibal Lecter mask side by side.
Yeah.
You know?
They do all of that subliminal imagery, and they do it in a lot of videos. I watched a video recently, actually a breakdown of a video that Justin Bieber had done, and it was the same thing. There was these quick flashes of scenes or stills, and the person that did the analysis did the same thing you did, you know, broke it down frame by frame, and all of those flashing frames were all satanic.
I'm getting to Justin Bieber soon.
Okay.
No, because also there was, you know, the thing that pointed towards ISIS and this horrible thing. It was especially one interview with a French couple, where you never get their real names, or at least I only found it in one place. And the man's name is Benjamin Vial, and her name is Celia Vial. They were the ones who said they screamed Allah Akbar. They were the ones saying that this is because what you've done in our country, pointing at ISIS. And by the way, ISIS, a total inside operation, Mossad and CIA, sponsored by Toyota, by the way. And what they told the story, a horrific story. You know, they were hiding under other bodies. You know, they were in oceans of blood, like they said. You know, and they had these dead bodies on top of them and so on. But then you check out the guy. He is the director. He's very much younger than she is. Anyway, he's the director of a company called Death Proof Records. And he just released an album before this whole thing happened. One of the crisis actors, or one of the people that was at the Bataclan, Jeannie Watson, who's an actor who's been in many different films, she just released an album on 9/11. And one of the songs, a ballad, is very poetically called Shag Me Senseless. I mean, really. Anyway, but this woman, his wife, Celia Vial, who was talking about this as well, I checked her out. I found her. She was the legal advisor on the production of Hannibal Rising.
Wow.
I mean, how bizarre can it get? And then afterwards, you know, Eagles of Death Metal, iTunes, and all of these things, they just helped them to get to fame like incredible. YouTube, no, not YouTube, U2. I mean, this band that I really used to like, and then I do not know how they sold out, but suddenly sitting in the lap of Obama and these guys, and here U2 come and they're on stage with him, and then Jesse the Devil, who always with all his tattoos and you know, rough style, Suddenly he appears in a white suit, and he's also appearing with Duran Duran, dressed in a pink T-shirt, and it's like, what is going on? And they appeared on a stadium in Paris. That is, when you look at the design of that stadium, I mean, that is like a Freemasonic temple.
Right.
It is absolutely incredible. And this is where Madonna and other people like that, who are also unfortunately very much into this, appeared also. Also, Madonna came to France, was standing there, singing in the crowd.
Of course.
Imagine these type of things. It's like, this is not even fun, This is on a level that is not okay. So the big question: how many died? How many were wounded? Have you noticed that the numbers keep changing? They go up and down and round in circles. All of the funerals, I don't know how many of the funerals you've seen. Maybe zero.
Zero.
Maybe all of the families. Or maybe you've seen one in each country, because so many of these victims come from different countries. I would very much suggest to involve emotionally as many countries as possible. And there was a Mexican girl called Noemi Gonzalez, and she said to have, there's some things around this that I'm not totally sure what's going on here, but she is said to have been in the concert with a boyfriend at the concert in the Bataclan, and then her parents heard about the shooting when they saw it on Mexican TV, and so they tried to call her, and she didn't answer, so they called her boyfriend, and he said, no, we're fine, we're outside the Bataclan, everything is good. Then she was approached by French police and taken in for questioning, and suddenly she was among the dead. There was another one, a Danish guy, who either he saw something real, or he's an incredible good actor for once. He saw some of the shooting in the street and so on. And there's just one little odd thing about him, is that he, just before this happened, got dual citizenship, English and Danish, which was impossible before. But suddenly he was both English and Danish in one person. So he appeared on English TV as an English and on Danish as Danish. I don't know if that is just a coincidence, but at the same time, it was just weeks after it became possible to get a dual citizenship. But also, two of the dead were from Spain, and a very high man in the Spanish government approached one of the families, went to the home, or called the home of the mother of one of the dead, and said, we're very, very sorry, but this has happened, it's so tragic, and so on. And then 1 hour later, her son called, not knowing, and both of them are alive. And then you got the female suicide bomber. I don't know if you've seen that, where there's this footage at night where she blows herself up. You don't see anything, you just hear her screaming and so on. Well, and there's this footage of this woman being spread all over the world. The terrorist, you see her in the bathtub, you see her with a cowboy hat and so on. Not very extremist when it comes to Islam, but well, there you go. Same with the 9/11
right.
Bombers that were snorting coke and drinking, heavy drinking, and in nightclubs.
Strip bars, yeah.
Strip bars. But here, this woman suddenly appears alive in Morocco, giving interviews saying, I have no idea how these images ended up in international press. They were taken and so on. So she was alive as well.
Well, the same thing happened with the 9/11 hijackers, right? I mean, 7 of them were found to be alive.
9.
9? Okay, 9.
Now, when you mention 9/11, do you remember this fantastic passport that appeared when nothing else survived the explosion or the dust?
Everything turned to dust except his passport. Yeah.
Except his passport. That was really, really good. Then at the 7/7 bombings in London, where there were 4 claimed suicide bombers, one of them blew himself up, and his passport, of which he of course brought this day, was found in 3 different locations. The same passport, I kid you not, including his driver's license. Only one slight problem, he did not have one. Then you have the Charlie Hebdo with two shooters shooting the police officer in a black Citroen. Okay, it was this Citroen also where they found the ID of one of the brothers that led them to find these guys. Only one slight problem. The Citroen that they were used when they jumped out and shot the police officer, claimed to have, was a Citroen C3 from 2014, chrome side mirrors and with extra light in the front. The one car that was found abandoned and where they found the ID of the attacker was a Citroen C3 from 2013 with black side mirrors and no extra light. Slight problem again. But here, of course, when one of the suicide bombers blew him up, his passport survived. And it was the passport not of the guy who killed himself, but of one of the other attackers. So that was really lucky, because that made him, the guy from the passport, one of the most looked after or wanted people in the Western Hemisphere, if not the whole world.
Yeah.
So, of course, this guy must have been, I would just guessing, a wild guess, a bit fearful, maybe trying to hide. No, here I found photos of the official photos while they're carrying away some of the bodies. You have photos where he's standing there together with one of the other suspects, just on the pavement looking at what's going on, with a motorcycle helmet or a scooter helmet, just standing there. And then, to make it even more bizarre, there is a Sky News video, which was officially filmed the day after, and there's footage from Paris. Oh, it's so horrible. And then the narrative says something like, well, there's a lot of terrorists, and who knows how many are hiding out there. And exactly when he says that, right in front of the camera, from the right in on stage, comes the man that is being searched for. And he just walks straight in front of the camera across. You don't notice him if you don't look. He even looks into the camera and smirks. Okay? So, and it is the guy. His name is Salah Abdel Salam. Okay? And I would suggest, since they really like these psyops, if you look at his name, Salah, sounds very much like Allah. Abdul is a terrorist, because we all know Muslims are terrorists nowadays after all of this brainwashing. Abdul, and then Abdul Salam.
Yeah.
So you get Islam in there as well. So his name is actually, it looks like made up by Allah Abdul Islam. I mean, can you make it up? It's like right there, but oh my God, Salah Abdul Salam, he must be a terrorist with that name. So I've looked at in the background of this footage, there's a cafe called Attitude, and it's right in the center of this whole filmed episode, which I would suggest was filmed way before or days before this happened, not afterwards. That footage, if this guy was to be framed as a patsy, they would have filmed that before and then used this footage and these other things to frame him. At least also this Attitude Cafe, it's only like a few hundred meters from the Bataclan. So that would be the obvious hiding place for a terrorist the day after. Not. Anyway, so I've gone down, and since this Attitude Cafe is so center in this footage, I thought, okay, I'll have a look at it, because maybe they're sort of saying, come to your subconscious, So I went in there, I Google mapped around in the streets, and there are some images that belongs to this cafe that you can click on. I clicked on one of them, and one of them, you see the menu, you see the tables, you see people outside, and suddenly there's a photo that looks like it's taken from the inside of the cafe, with a guy that takes a photo, or a silhouette guy, and in front of him there's a big sign, Je suis Charlie. And it's held by a hand of fingers that is almost like in the devil sign, all of it bright red. And then if you look out in the street, the whole street is filled with police officers. I mean, there's 50, 60 police out there in the street. So I would suggest could be part of the PSYOP some people, Attitude Cafe, they just go in there and they just click their way through, but it makes a connection with other terrorism,
Right.
terror attack, just like 7/7 on the other thing. Also, there was when this whole thing happened, there's some footage, of Nike shoes in the street. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say product placement big time. That Nike appears again and again around this one, and also next to it, there's a broken watch. Enlarge that and check out the point. Do you call them pointers on the clock?
Yeah.
9/11. They're pointing at 9/11. And this, if you look at films, I don't know how many major movies in the background. Check out the clocks on the walls, on the hands, on still photos, on film photos. It's pointing at 9 and 11.
Ole, on that very same theme, Obama had his State of the Nation speech, I guess about 2 weeks ago. And of course, above him is a clock. It started at 9/11. You can't make this stuff up.
I know. Anyway, you mentioned Justin Bieber.
Yep.
Okay. Bieber, I think his name is. There's a he had a friend that was killed in the Bataclan. His name was Thomas Ayad. And he was way up in the music business, working with Rolling Stones, I think the Eagles, many major bands. And so there's an interview, I think it's done on English TV, where he's being interviewed about his dead friend, Thomas. And the guy who's interviewing him is showing him photos, and Justin Bieber is sitting there, yeah, so sad, so sad. And in the background, it's very dark in the background, but there's some people sitting in the sofa. So I highlighted the background just to see what's going on here. You never know. I highlighted. It's the same guy that is dead, but he's sitting in a sofa with, I think, maybe his girlfriend or someone that looks very much like him, having a laugh.
Yep.
I'm telling you, they're playing a theater right in front of our face. It is in your face, just like smack there. And then afterwards, when all of this happened, you had all of this footage, soldiers, martial law type of photos in front of the Eiffel Tower, in front of the glass pyramid at the Louvre. I mean, when you look at architecture that does not fit in, have you seen a worse type of example? I mean,
it's all over the place, Ole. I'm laughing because it gets to the point where it's comical. It's all that symbolism, 666, the devil's horns, pyramids, all-seeing eye. That stuff is all over the place. It permeates the societies of all the nations. It's all over the place.
I know. But what can I say? I just pointed out
Yep.
to make it as obvious as possible. So this is not my personal opinion. But I think if there were like 3 or 4 things like this, okay, it could be a coincidence. I mean, we've been talking now for 2 hours. And then the whole question, or one of the main questions, is why did it happen when it happened? And I would very much suggest that it was because of the G20 summit that was happening. So because of all of these things, and for our security, we were not allowed to demonstrate or protest or anything for national security. I would very much like to change that expression, national security, to their security, because that's what it's all about.
Yep.
And also the climate change conference. That was where did it take place? Let me remind you, Paris.
There you go.
There you go. And also they had, I keep forgetting his name. He was a vice president candidate, I think.
Oh, Al Gore?
Al Gore. He was there. And when this whole thing happened, they had a 24-hour live conference at the Eiffel Tower, as far as I know. And this, of course, was due to the whole terror thing was shut down. But these were the things they were trying to distract us away from. At the same time, move in more and more with this martial law, military dictatorship that they're trying to. I mean, I have friends that were arrested, or a friend of mine, he has friends in France that was arrested. I think about 200 people for no apparent reason. People were being carried out, just for asking questions, and I'm at a point where I don't feel safe to go to France, being who I am.
Right.
And it's just incredible. So, Mr. Williams, what to do?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that more and more people are waking up to these tactics and these antics. Like you said, we've been talking for 2 hours, Ole, and it's always so interesting when you're on the show and you talk about this. And the other thing is, I find myself not surprised by any of it. It's just amazing.
Do you know one of the songs from the Eagles of death metal?
No, I don't listen to.
One of the songs says, first we make plans, then we go to San Bernardino.
Oh, yes. I saw a video on that. There's a guy named PK22 on YouTube, and he did a video on that. It's unbelievable.
I mean, what are the chances? Maybe it's a coincidence, but really, what are the chances?
Right. You have a better chance of being struck by lightning on a sunny day.
And then the description people gave in San Bernardino, where they had drills on a monthly basis, these where they happen, these things are often, communities with a very bad budget that needs a boost, I would suggest. Anyway, they had drills, and the description of the shooters were 3 people in dark military clothes, well-fit, military-looking. This description then made media go out with images of an Arab-looking couple.
Right.
How can you get 3 military-looking white guys to look like a man and a woman of some kind of color and apparent religion connected to Islam? I mean, beats me.
Well, what they do is they just put it out there. They shut the real story down immediately, and then they just saturate the airwaves and the radio and the newspapers with what they want the public to believe. That's how they do it. They just shut it down.
And I think it was it 11 minutes after it happened in San Bernardino, there was about 400 official vehicles in the area.
Yeah.
That is 400, like 400. I think that if you look at the total of California, I don't know if they've got more.
Yeah.
And if you look at the footage from above, you can see they've got like camping chairs, barbecue almost, this whole thing, beer. And look at I don't know, these police officers, many of them were not fit, I tell you, to say the least. There were many of them not looking like real police officers at all.
Right.
And the whole chase, oh God, it was just so poorly pulled off. But I tell you, on some shows, I said that the people, I really feel for the people who are putting these things together, because they're running out of options. I mean, what have they not used to try to scare us? I mean, really, when they've had ISIS to chop the head of I don't know how many people, not even that, they're running out of options. And also with the terrorists, they've used the whole spectrum. So I said the only thing that is missing now is more or less grandma bomber, an old lady in a wheelchair sitting on a bomb with 2 machine guns in the handles of the wheelchair. And I was making that as a joke. Then somebody somewhere in the States contacted me and said that he was working in one of these places, and they had just had papers given to them by the owners or by the authorities that look out for suspicious conversations among elderly people where you work.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you really because it sounds to me like that is part of pumping up the pressure so that in comes Grandma Bomber, because they've even used the underwear bomber. Who are they going to use?
I know they are running out of options, Ole. I mean, I tell people, look, we live in a cartoon world, and I said that what we're missing is an active shooter event at a hospice. That's the only thing they haven't done yet. I mean, we've been to schools, we've been to, everywhere else, but we haven't been to a hospice yet. So I'm hoping that people are seeing this. I'm hoping that more and more people are waking up to it. I know that in our circle, we completely get this. Sometimes I get concerned that am I just, expecting maybe falsely that it's spreading outside of our circle of people that are looking into this or know about this stuff? Is it leaking out more and more into the general public where they're looking at this stuff and saying, wait a minute, this is the same template over and over and over again? You talk to a lot of people, so what is your take on it? Do you think more and more people are waking up to it?
God, yeah. I mean, when I started with this, nobody was listening. Nobody knew what a false flag was.
Yeah.
I mean, I think up until the Boston bombing, that was the first time where more people started to even question what is a false flag. Up until then, it was totally unheard of. Nobody knew about it. And now, I mean, it's fantastic because I don't know, through my interviews, I don't know how many hundreds I've done, but I know that maybe I reached a million or something.
Yeah.
They have been speaking to other people who have been speaking to other people, and I'm not the only one. And then now, when one of these things happen, I mean, it's within minutes, it's people all over the internet are dissecting these things into the slightest little detail. So I used to feel totally alone. Now it's like, it's fantastic. And I really feel that they tried in this attack, they gave it everything they had. This was the attack, the final one, where they were hitting us right, left, and center with everything. And they didn't pull it off. So I don't know about you, but after New Year, or I don't know, maybe before Christmas, it was like this tension in the air was just inflated. It just, deflated. It just went out the window. Up until then, I just felt an incredible need to get it out there, because I really felt that if we don't expose this one quickly, this is the one they've been building up to, like a massive big crescendo, like where they tried everything. They tried, Jade Helm and all of these viruses and chemtrails and vaccine. I might even fluoride. I mean, my God, they're hitting us from all different directions, and we're still standing. So, and waking up as well. So I think it's fantastic. I really feel super optimistic.
And I think there's a portion of the population that, even if they're not awake, that these things, they're happening more and more on a consistent basis, that they're not newsworthy anymore to a lot of people. I mean, when the first one or two came out, people were horrified by it and, very concerned about what it all meant. And what I'm seeing now is that many people, they see it, it's reported on the so-called news, on the state-controlled media, and it just goes away. People are not interested. So it's almost like, for those that really aren't awake yet and they still have their head in the matrix, that they have become almost impervious to this stuff now. It's like it doesn't bother them anymore. They just kind of move on. That's, to me, is kind of an interesting dynamic, because they've got so much of the population so dumbed down with their fluoride and everything else they've got in the air and the water and the food, that a lot of people, they don't have the attention span to focus on their events anymore. I mean, that to me almost seems funny in a way. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I think it's fantastic because it's backfiring right in their face.
Yeah.
Do you remember in the 70s there was a film called Soldier Blue?
Yeah.
Where that was the first, as far as I know, the first film that showed what happens when somebody is hit by a bullet, and showed, instead of just a little drop of ketchup on the shirt, that people really got very brutally hurt and killed and so on. And people were lying in the cinema theaters all over the world puking, and there was this whole thing. Now, I mean, chop someone up in pieces, use them in a deli, served on a pizza. Nobody reacts. And this is, in one way, awful. And it's the same time fantastic because they try to control us through fear. But what do you do when you numb down the population? So when you say "burr," they're so numbed down that they don't even react.
Right.
So it is fantastic, I would say, in one way, because it's working in our favor suddenly that people do not react because they need us to react.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's sort of like a double-edged sword. And fantastic.
Yeah, I see people desensitized to it. That's what I'm seeing. And it's not just because of these staged events that they put on, but they desensitize the population through video game violence and through television violence. And it's gotten to the point now where it just goes right over people's heads. They glaze over. They just don't care.
And I think it's, when you look at, I think it's awful when you look at TV series and like dramas or whatever. Somebody's standing kicking someone in the head like 5-10 times. You don't even react. Or this standard thing, somebody's lying down on the ground and is executed with a headshot. I mean, you don't even react anymore.
Right.
Or torture, you don't even react anymore. It's awful. That is horrendous. And at the same time, when you're numb, you're fearless as well. So it's sort of like
it's weird.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it has a weird dynamic to it, You don't want people to be dumbed down, or insensitive or desensitized to this stuff, but on the other hand, it's actually playing against them.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah.
Because what are they going to use? How can they freak you out? Because they need you to be fearful, and they've run out of options. I mean, how many different, I can't come up with anything except Grandma Bomber that they have not used yet. Or Grandma Bomber at a hospice. That is the ultimate. But listen, can I just point one more thing out?
Yeah, go ahead.
With Nike, if you saw these shoes and Nike that keeps repeating again and again in this drama, and I would say in many other dramas as well, look out for it. The shoes that were placed in this one were black with white, the logo in white. That exact black shoe with the white logo was also very, very central in the Heaven's Gate suicide. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yep.
When very odd so-called sect that was waiting for some planet to come down and
yeah, they had Nikes on.
Guru. No, it was this comet, Halley's Comet,
right,
that was going to hit the world. And so they decided to commit suicide over a few days, extremely connected to numerology, all the numbers, everything around this whole thing. But 39 of them killed themselves. They were all found in their beds with purple cloth on top, except for 2 with plastic. But otherwise than that, they had black, comfortable trousers, and all of them identical new Nike shoes, black with a white logo, identical. Right. Heaven's Gate suicide. Check it out, and you will see it's the exact same, I would say, model even of shoe. And there was a big thing in media around that thing with this suicide happened, because accusations about the logo, the Nike logo, that it was actually very similar to the Arabic word for Allah. And I don't know if that is why they use that to subconsciously remind us of Islam in these horror things, for us to amp up the anti-Muslim threat. I don't know, but I just see it's there. And also with ISIS, I dare you show me one photo of ISIS where there's a vehicle, if it's not a Toyota.
Right.
And do you know Toyota, the founder of Toyota was a tailor. They were very much into clothes making, a tailor like that. And also, if you look at ISIS, all of them have the exact same. I think they have the same tailor. All of them in black. All of them the same. So maybe Toyota are doing a double thing, both delivering clothes and vehicles. I don't know.
In the back of the trucks. With Nike, the other thing is their tagline is "Just do it." So, I don't know if it's a tie-in to the fact that this product placement, especially with Nike, what's implied there. Everybody knows the Nike logo, and virtually everybody associates it with the tagline "Just do it." I'm just putting it out there. I don't know.
I say just don't. Whatever they say, do it. I say let's just not.
And that concludes another Sage of Quay interview, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Links to my guests' websites and social media are listed in the show notes below. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and visiting the blog. You can get to the blog by typing in sageofquayradio.blogspot.com or simply head over to our hub website at sageofquay.com. Also, if you get a moment, please visit laboroflovemusic.com to listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.